hand standing at the filing cabinet. My fingers are already tracing the worn labels. The scent of old paper is thick, familiar. My head aches, a dull throb behind my eyes. I don't remember walking here. This is how it always starts. I feel the smooth, cool brass key in my pocket. It's a small comfort. The scar on my left wrist, a faint, jagged line, tingles. Sarah approaches. Her usual brisk walk slows. Her eyes roll back. A fixed, unsettling smile stretches her lips. Her voice, when it comes, is a low drone. The 10-minute loop is absolute. No deviation, no recognition. Repeat. She blinks. The smile vanishes. She asks, "Find that report, Tvero?" I just stare at her. My breath is held. The words echo, cold and precise. She walks away, humming. I don't move. My gaze drifts to the wall clock. The minute hand jerks. It doesn't move smoothly. It moves in a series of tiny, impossible stops. It skips from the 3 to the 5 in a single, silent leap. Then it resumes its normal, slow crawl. The second hand continues its steady sweep, oblivious. I watch the empty space where the 4 should have been. That felt wrong. I forced my gaze from the clock. My fingers found the next folder, pulling it from the cabinet. The scent of old paper was a thin comfort. I needed to act normal. The rule echoed in my head. No deviation. No recognition. But the office was changing. The fluorescent lights above hummed, but the light they cast felt wrong. Shadows stretched too long, or not at all. A patch of wall near the water cooler seemed to absorb light, becoming a deeper gray. A distant murmur of voices warped, like a recording played at the wrong speed. It was a low guttural sound, then high-pitched, then normal again. My instinct screamed to stop, to run, or just to watch. I gripped the brass key in my pocket. Its coolness was a small anchor. My fingers kept moving, pulling folders. Each label blurred. The task was a shield, thin and useless. It bought me seconds, nothing more. I kept pulling folders. The scent of old paper was a thin comfort. My gaze snagged on the polished surface of the desk beside me. It was dark wood, gleaming. I saw my reflection there. It was me, but not quite. My hand, still reaching for a folder, seemed to move first in the reflection. Then my actual hand followed. I paused. I slowly raised my left hand, watching the polished wood. The reflection's hand lifted. It moved a fraction of a second before mine. It was a subtle desynchronization. I lowered my hand. The reflection's hand lingered. Then it dropped. My breath hitched. I leaned closer. A small silver pen lay on the desk. I watched my reflection. Its hand twitched. The actual pen on the desk slid an inch to the left. A faint scratch appeared beneath it. This was not a trick of light. My left wrist tingled. The scar was a faint line. I gripped the brass key in my pocket. It was cold against my palm. I pulled a small metal ruler from my desk drawer. Its cold weight felt familiar. I placed it carefully beside the faint scratch the pen had made. My eyes focused, trying to find a logical explanation. The scratch was exactly 1 inch long. I noted the measurement, then looked up at the wall clock. The minute hand still jumped, ignoring the 4. When my gaze returned to the desk, the scratch had lengthened. It was now 2 inches. The ruler hadn't moved. My thumb was still pressed against the 1-inch mark. The extra length had simply appeared, stretching the mark like soft clay. I measured again, 2 inches. My tools, my logic, they were useless here. This wasn't a trick of light or perspective. This was a direct contradiction, mocking every principle I knew. The brass key in my pocket felt heavy, a cold anchor. The scar on my left wrist pulsed, a dull ache confirming the impossible. I pushed away from the desk. The 2-inch scratch still mocked the wood. A strange pull urged me toward the door. I found myself moving, not by choice. The corridor stretched ahead, familiar beige walls, the fluorescent hum. I walked, expecting the turn to the main office, but the turn never came. The hallway seemed to lengthen. The same fire extinguisher, the same faded poster kept repeating. I kept walking. My hand brushed the wall. The texture changed, from smooth paint to rough, cold brick. I stopped. This wasn't right. I was inside. I should have been inside. I looked back. The door I'd just exited was gone. In its place, a heavy wooden door, scarred with age, stood ajar. Through the gap, I saw a patch of gray sky. I felt a sudden chill. I could smell the rain. My left wrist throbbed. The scar was a dull ache. The brass key in my pocket felt like ice. I stepped through the wooden door, compelled. It led back to the beige corridor, exactly where I started. The brick wall was gone. The scratch on my desk was still 2 inches. I stood in the corridor. The beige walls stretched, identical. My left wrist throbbed, a dull echo of the scar. The brass key in my pocket felt heavy, cold. I knew the loop had reset. I knew I was back. My gaze drifted to a section of the wall, near the floor. A faint seam, barely visible, caught my eye. It wasn't bare before, or maybe it always was. I knelt, tracing the line with my finger. The paint felt smooth, but beneath it I sensed a subtle vibration, a low hum I couldn't hear. I pressed harder. A small panel clicked inward, revealing a dark recess. Inside, a single leather-bound journal lay open. Its pages were brittle, covered in cramped, precise handwriting and strange geometric diagrams. The ink was faded, but the lines were sharp. I picked it up. The leather was cold, dry. A faint metallic scent, like old iron, rose from the pages. I saw dates, stretching back centuries. And then, a diagram. A perfect, repeating loop, with small, labeled nodes. Each node was a task. Each task was a cycle. The last entry, in a different hand, read, "The system is perfect. It cannot be broken, only observed." My fingers tightened on the book. The hum in the wall intensified, a silent confirmation. This wasn't chaos. This was design. The hum in the wall intensified, vibrating through the journal in my hands. I felt the brass key in my pocket, cold against my thigh. The corridor walls began to shudder. A hairline crack spiderwebbed across the beige paint, widening with a soft tearing sound. Dust rained from the ceiling. The floor beneath me tilted, a slow, sickening shift. I dropped the journal, scrambling for balance. A section of the ceiling above me groaned, then ripped free, crashing down where I had just stood. My breath hitched. I pushed off the unstable floor, my muscles screaming. The air filled with the smell of plaster and ozone. A heavy steel door at the far end of the corridor, previously unnoticed, slammed shut with a deafening clang, echoing down the collapsing space. I saw another crack, snaking towards my feet. My left wrist throbbed, the scar a dull ache. This wasn't observation anymore. This was a trap. I had to move. I ran, not knowing where. Just away from the falling debris, away from the closing walls. I stumbled into a small windowless office, gasping for breath. The air was thick with plaster dust, catching the dim, flickering light from a single fluorescent tube. My lungs burned. I leaned against a desk, hands braced on its cold metal surface, trying to steady myself. The violent tremors had subsided, but the floor still hummed faintly beneath my feet. A fine layer of gritty dust coated everything. The desk, the filing cabinets, the scattered papers. Chunks of drywall lay strewn across the carpet, some still crumbling silently. One wall had a deep, jagged gouge, as if something enormous had scraped past, leaving a raw, exposed line. I could still hear the distant, metallic groaning of stressed beams, like a ship settling in deep water. My left wrist throbbed, the scar a dull, insistent pulse. I touched the brass key in my pocket, its cool weight a small, familiar anchor. This wasn't just a collapse. It felt like the building itself was alive, shifting around me, trapped inside its new, unstable design. I am back at my desk. The fluorescent lights hum above, steady and bright. Papers are stacked neatly, just as I left them. Everything seems normal. But the glass of the picture frame on my desk reflects the office wall at a strange angle. The corner of the room in the reflection doesn't quite match the actual corner. It's shifted, just a fraction. I trace the cool brass key in my pocket. The air feels thick, stretched thin in places. It's like the space itself is holding its breath. I can still see faint lines of dust on the top of the monitor, settling into the crevices. The jagged gouge on the far wall is gone, but the plaster there looks too new, too smooth. My left wrist throbs, a dull echo of the tremors. This job isn't about productivity. It's about staying put, about holding things in place. It's about being here, a quiet anchor in a world that refuses to settle. I am just a part of the containment. The fluorescent lights hum above, a steady false comfort. I trace the cool brass key in my pocket. Its weight is familiar. The reflection in the picture frame still shows that subtle, impossible shift in the office corner. It's a quiet testament. Sarah's words echo cold and precise. The 10-minute loop is absolute, no deviation, no recognition. Repeat. I understand now. The clock didn't just skip a number, it reset. The gouge on the wall wasn't repaired, it was overwritten. My awareness, my memory of these impossible moments doesn't break the cycle. It only makes me conscious of its endless repetition. The ache in my left wrist is a constant. It is a physical record of what was, what is, and what will be again. I am not an observer. I am part of the mechanism. This isn't a job I can finish. It's a state I must endure.